Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, and otherworldly and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. Without further ado, welcome to this week's episode.
Hello, creepers, and welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I am the hostess with the mostest for this week, Miss Moni, but of course, I'm only 1/3 of this crazy tripod here, so I want to bring in my co-hosts, both from Georgia, but first I want to start with Mr. Yardley, who I haven't talked to in a minute. How are you doing, sir?
Everything's good. It's been a beautiful weekend here in Atlanta, Georgia. I can't complain. Always excited to discuss some conspiracies with both of you.
Dun, dun, dun. Conspiracy theories. And Christy, I figure this is going to be your jam, but how are you holding up right now?
I'm doing great. I got my tinfoil hat on. I'm on my second cup of coffee, so I can get extra for the show, and I'm excited. And Yardley, I woke up for some reason at 4:30 this morning and was awake for about, 3 hours, and so after hour one had passed, I was like, I guess I'll get on my phone because I'm clearly not going back to sleep. Although I did end up going back to sleep. I got on Instagram and I saw whatever the most delicious concoction that Yardley had made. What was that? Chicken legs or?
Like turkey legs.
Oh,
yeah.
They look amazing. And then I saw you tagged yourself from the Honeycomb Hideout, and I howled because that's like my favorite cereal in the whole world. We have like 5 boxes of it in our house right now. I was like, oh, those look amazing. Yeah. And he's at the Honeycomb Hideout? No.
Yeah, it was, well, just like today. It was a nice day yesterday. I think the Blue beautiful. Angels had flew over the city, so there was probably a lot more people out yesterday than there should have been. But it was a great day. I can't complain. So I'll just quarantine and chill. I guess that's what they're saying these days.
Yes, we have decided to continue to enact the stay-home ordinance in our house. We're not going to do the tattoo parlors, bowling alleys, or restaurants at this time. And we are going to also grill today some steaks and some crab cakes and some corn on the cob. And so I'm excited. It's going to be another beautiful day. And life ain't so bad. I mean, I'm kind of cabin fevered out, which I did watch Cabin Fever the other day. Holy shit. Nice. And so I can't complain.
Nice. Well, good to hear it, you guys. I was, we see all this crazy stuff from over here of like, Georgia's reopening, everybody's going to die. And they're like, everybody here's rioting on the damn beach. And I'm just like, okay, we're just going to stay home and do our best. So I was wondering though, Christy, does your tinfoil hat match your mask? Have you got like a whole shiny thing going on that we should imagine, or?
I just put the whole bodysuit on. It all goes all the way past my head. I'm probably going to use it to wrap the corn on the cob to grill later. So it might be just a one-time thing, but yes, definitely. Picture me in all the foil because I am ready.
She has a foil gown, you guys. I mean, what else are we doing? Making foil gowns in the apocalypse. So
exactly.
So as Yardley mentioned, we're going to talk about conspiracies throughout history. This is like not even the surface of what there is out there. And we're going to have fun with it. We're not going to take it too seriously, but we want to do our segment that is especially important in these times where you may be staying home quite a lot, which is talking about what we're watching so that you guys can get some recommendations from us on what's good right now. So Yardley, do you want to start us off with those?
All right. I went back and started watching 2011's Hell on Wheels. This is a show that is on AMC. It's actually one of my favorite shows, as Christy and a lot of people, possibly some that are listening to Creepin' It Real. Kente and I did a podcast on it, and it was actually, it's a special show to my heart because of all the relationships that we made with the actors and the directors and the writers of the show. And for those who aren't familiar, this show is currently streaming on Netflix, seasons 1 through 5. Basically, it's the post-Civil War and a Confederate soldier named Cullen Bohannon. His wife and his son are killed at the hand of some Union soldiers, and it sets him off on a path of revenge. Essentially, the story tells about his journey. It rides throughout the thread of the Union Pacific's construction through the first transcontinental railroad. Bohannon's westward travels take him to a lawless melting pot in a town called Hell on Wheels. This is essentially a town that moves along with the building of the railroad. So it's a great series. There's enough to binge. I think most of the people who I know that started watching it, they love the show, so I highly recommend that. And then I went back in the time capsule and I watched The Toy from 1983 with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason and also Scott Schwartz. It's essentially the story of Jack. He ends up he's a writer. He's taking odd jobs. He ends up taking a job at a janitor at this mega department store that's owned by U.S. Bates, which is played by Jackie Gleason. He gets his son for 1 week a year. His son comes in and he tells him that he can have anything that he wants in the store. And to everyone's horror, he picks Jack Brown, which is played by Richard Pryor. And essentially the thread throughout this story is discovery. And he ends up finding out some of the reasons why this young boy Jack has so much trouble. And the threads lead back to his father, U.S. Bates.
Of course.
And it's in '83 and it still holds up. It's just one of the movies that I always think about when I think about Richard Pryor. If you have kids, it's a fun story, and it does have messages throughout the story. Do you remember much about that, Christy?
I do. You know what? I completely forgot about this movie until I just saw you talking about it, and I kind of giggled to myself because I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, Jackie Gleason, I was huge fan of the Honeymooner reruns, of course. I wasn't alive when the original Honeymooners aired, but that is, Jackie Gleason was, I think, got his start there, or he definitely made the show. And then Richard Pryor, I mean, he's amazing. And if I was somebody who had those choices, I would have picked him too. So I totally get it. I would have been like, oh, he looks awesome. I'll take him.
Well, this is definitely a recommend, Moni, if you haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure your kids would totally trip out
funny.
Watching this.
Yeah, it's funny.
I feel like I've seen it, but it's been a long time anyway. So
yeah, it's totally kid friendly, and to kind of bring it to something that's probably a lot more current, I watched Extraction. It's on Netflix. It stars Chris Hemsworth, and he's playing a black market mercenary who has nothing to lose, who ends up being hired to rescue the kidnapped son of an imprisoned international crime lord. And essentially in this underworld of weapons dealers and drug traffickers, and this deadly mission ends up becoming more impossible as he goes along with it. If you like, I mean, I think that Chris Hemsworth,
it's worth watching no matter what he does.
Well, whenever he stops being Thor, he definitely has a future in action movies, because there are a lot of one shot action sequences in this, and he does a great job, and it's brutal fighting. If you like explosions and people getting shot and beat up in close quarters, you'll definitely want to watch this on Netflix. I think they spent $65 million on this.
Great things about it. I've heard it's the biggest original movie that Netflix has had or something like that. So yeah.
I mean, it's really good. I think that people, even if you're a fan of Hemsworth, you'll probably be surprised at how well he does in the action genre. I mean, I know everybody likes like John Wick. You know how John Wick is one of those you just turn your brain off and you just want to enjoy. See some awesome. Mm-hmm. But there are sequences that are like that, and to some extent, a little bit more believable at how a person could fight like that in close quarters. Mm-hmm. This is why it's so impressive to me, the job that he did. And I would totally be down, especially after watching this, to see him in, other, strong action movies.
Yeah, nice. It's on my list to watch. I know you had said, I think the last time you and I talked, that you were going to watch it, or you had just watched it, and that it was worth. And I was like, okay, wait, I don't know if I've noticed that one on Netflix. So it is in my queue, and I will definitely check that one out. I like action movies, so.
When you first start watching it for like the first, 10 or 15 minutes, you don't really know what to make of it. But pretty soon, after like the 15-minute mark or so, everything is downhill, and it's pretty awesome. And doesn't end the way you think it will. You know that you think it would. So, yeah, everybody give it a shot. I totally co-sign it.
So it's one of those. It's good, but then it also has like a catch at the end, like a surprise at the end.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like a
Very
surprise,
nice.
but it's I mean, you're not gonna, like, when the movie's over, you ain't gonna feel good. I can tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know what I'm
Great.
saying? It's one of those type of things.
Okay. Can do
Nice.
it. All right.
Well, thank you for your recommendations. Sounds like some good stuff. I'm actually going to probably get my husband to watch Extraction with me tonight. Christy, do you want to talk about what you've been watching?
Yeah. I just wrote down a second one that popped into my head that Yardley and I had discussed on the last show. So I am going to do a quick little mention of that one too. But I got my movie mojo back. I think last time Moni and I were talking, I was just like not in it, like as far as too just kind of depressed and overwhelmed to even look for a movie. It's overwhelming when you're kind of in a bad place, even looking and trying to figuring out what the fuck you're going to watch because of all the choices and all the apps and everything. You're just like, ugh. And so I just wasn't even watching anything. I was just turned it off and stayed off for about a week. And then I got my movie mojo back and literally watched like 5 movies in one day. And that just kind of pushed me through whatever it was that I was dealing with. But Yardley and I reviewed Tales from the Hood Part 1, and we talked a lot about how, first of all, the messages of the movie are still very prevalent today, and he talked about watching Tales from the Hood Part 2. So as soon as we finished recording that show, I went and watched it, and I had no idea it's from 2018. I thought Tales from the Hood Part 2 was like still in the 90s at some point. Like they like made a Part 2 30 years later? Like I can't count, but
yeah, it's been a while.
And I was really surprised at the still the same political messages, but it was good, and I recommend it. I thought it was a really good mix of different things, and it was a different. It wasn't in a mortuary. It was done with a politician, which I thought was pretty clever how they did that. And the guy's a total sleazeball, and he's trying to make a robot. So the guy's telling the robot stories that I guess are from an African American point of view. I'm not quite sure like why he was there telling the stories, but they were good stories. Very different. The baby doll one, I can't remember what they were called, but wow, okay. That was something else.
Yeah, it's totally great because once you watched the first one, and luckily for you had never seen the first one, and you were immediately able to follow up. With the second one. The only thing that I will say is, I mean, the first ones they had, I think some of the writing and the producing was done by Spike Lee. Tonally, it's slightly different, but it's just as effective with telling the messages that that they want to convey.
There's one of the stories is got Emmett Till in it, and wow, that one was like really, really powerful, and it wasn't even, it was in a moment where you're watching this movie and it's supposed to be cheesy horror and funny, but that episode, like at the end, you're just like, oh, it wasn't I was like powerful. I think I even texted that to you. You're like, wow, the Emmett Till one's really powerful. Yeah. Like it's not even like it should be just live on its own in its own space. It was really moving. So definitely want to check that one out. I thought it was good. Some of them, like the baby doll one, I was like, okay, a little out there, but that's what it's for, I guess, right?
They purposely put that one a little bit extra out there. But yeah, I mean, but they're all fun, but they'll hit you in the gut though if you get the point of them.
The Emmett Till one was definitely my favorite, though. Okay, so that definitely want to check that out. And then I watched Blood Quantum on Shudder. I think it's a new release on Shudder. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but it was definitely worth a watch. It's got a 5.4 on IMDb. And did not know this, but the term blood quantum refers to a colonial blood measurement system that is used to determine an individual's indigenous status and is criticized as a tool of control and erasure of indigenous peoples. as the citizens of surrounding cities flee to the, and I'm going to butcher this, Mi'kmaq reservations in search of refuge from an outbreak, the community must reckon with the weather to let the outsiders in, and thus risk not just the extinction of their tribe, but of humanity, period. So it's, is around Native Americans, and I believe it was filmed in Canada, and there's a zombie outbreak, but Indigenous people do not become zombies when they're bit, and they're the only ones that don't. And so they're kind of in, and there's this question of why and what's different about their blood. They don't really dive too into it, but it's very prevalent, obviously, because they get bit and all of a sudden they realize they're not dying and becoming zombies, and everybody else is, and then you just fast forward like 8 months into the future and what that looks like, and it's an interesting movie. Speaking of interesting movies, I watched a movie called Dogtooth on Shudder, and holy shit, talking about fucking crazy. I think it's in German. I'm kind of in shock after watching it. It is. I will say it's out there. There are some topics that are very, very taboo in this movie. So if you are sensitive on extremely taboo family topics, this is not, I don't even know how to say it. This is not the movie for you. It is got a 7.3 on IMDb, which shocked me. I think that's why I actually started watching it, because I'm like, oh, subtitle movie, and am I up for this? And then I saw the score, so I was like, okay, I got to check this out. And then I read some of the reviews, and it got me curious enough to watch it. And at the end, I was just like, wow, okay. 3 teenagers are confined to an isolated country estate that could very well be on another planet. The trio spend their days listening to endless homemade tapes that teach them a whole new vocabulary. Any word that comes from beyond their family abode is instantly assigned a new meaning. Hence, the sea refers to a large armchair, and zombies are little yellow flowers. Having invented a brother whom they claim to have ostracized for his disobedience, the uber-controlling parents terrorize their offspring into a submission. It's really crazy. The father is the only family member who can leave the manicured lawns of their self-inflicted exile, earning their keep by managing a nearby factory, while the only outsider allowed on the premises is his colleague Christina, who is paid to relieve the son of his male urges. Tired of these dutiful acts of carnality, Christina disturbs the domestic balance. So it's a really fucking crazy movie. If you're up for something, it's not horror, it's unusually. In Shudder, I was expecting it to be scary. I think it's scary in that it's horrifying to think of these are adult. They're coming into adulthood, and they've never been outside of their yard. And the only way their parents tell them they can leave when they get their dog tooth, or when they lose their dog tooth or something. So they're always like looking at their mouth and like, is it loose? I think it's loose. Like because they're dying to leave this freaking yard. They've never been outside of their yard. And
so weird.
He trains them to be dogs, and so they're like on their knees barking. It's it's really fucking crazy. Y'all check it out, and you let me know if you want to deal with some very taboo topics. Let's just say that, like the chick Christina eventually gets relieved of her duty to the brother, and the sisters have to try out for it. Let's just say that.
Oh,
so.
cute.
If you're not up for that, that was a very small piece of the movie, but it's there, and so the rest of it is nothing to do with that, but it's really fucking weird. So anyway, I can't say that enough. To cleanse my palate, I then moved on to The Collector on Shudder, which is what I was originally looking for when I got on Shudder, actual horror movie. This one has a 6.4 on IMDb. When the Chase family moves to an isolated house in the middle of nowhere in Detroit, Arkin is hired to fix the windows and the doors. Later, he meets his daughter and his wife that has a debt with dangerous sharks and needs money. But his weak payment is not enough to pay her debts. Arkin plots to heist the safe of Michael during the night to raise the necessary money. However, when he arrives in the house, he finds that his sadistic criminal has imprisoned the family and planted traps everywhere. Arkin seeks a way out of the deadly house to save his life. It was a really fucked up movie. Like, it was good. I thought it was good. It's definitely worth a check out. Never heard of it, and I was pleasantly surprised. So definitely want to look that one up if you can.
Is it a lot of torture stuff, or is it pretty?
Yeah, it's all torture. It's torture and traps, basically, like
just Saw kind of thing almost.
Yeah. I liked it better than Saw, actually, just because the guy who's the bad guy actually, has the opportunity to leave, and he doesn't. He's trying to, he's not a bad guy. I mean, yes, he was going in there to steal, but he just needed it to keep his daughter from, disappearing. So it wasn't like, yes, he went into the house to steal, but he ends up, being a good guy. And the ending's pretty kind of like, oh, shit. So, yeah, it's definitely worth a check out.
Nice.
Then I took Moni's recommendation and I could only watch season 2 of Ghost Nation. I watched episode 1 and 2. The Witching Tree episode, wow, that was pretty crazy. If you guys aren't watching Ghost Nation, it's worth a check out. I have it planned on our system to record when the other season 1 episodes show. They'll store them for me. We do the YouTube TV, so it's a little different than what I'm used to, but it's not bad. So yeah, that was a really crazy episode. I don't know if you remember that, but when they got the cadaver dogs out there on the tree, and they all 3 showed there's a body there. Did you see that, Moni?
I haven't watched Ghost Nation.
Okay.
I've been watching Ghost Hunters.
Well, that is Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters is on A&E?
Yeah, they changed it to Ghost Nation, no? With with all the cast is back, but not Grant.
What? Yeah, they split off. So that's that crew. I haven't seen that series
okay,
yet.
okay.
And then Grant took a brand new crew and he got to keep the name Ghost Hunters.
Well, I watched the wrong one.
Travel, right? This is a good recommendation. I'll check this one out too. Then I've been wondering about this one.
Okay, then I will watch Ghost Hunters and you watch Ghost Nation. Okay, yes. There's the first episode of season 2 is called The Witching Tree, and holy shit, it's crazy. I thought it was really good.
I'll definitely check it out. Yeah. No, I wanted you to watch Ghost Hunters because I'm planning a trip to Tucson, Arizona to drive 2 more hours with friends if you want to join us to go see this town that's in the Ghost Hunters episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah. My sister lives in Phoenix, so why not?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So definitely want to check that out if you can.
Okay.
Ghost Nation. I haven't seen the first season, so I don't know anything about it. I can't speak for it, but season 2 so far has been pretty good. Then I took Yardley's recommendation and watched Polaroid. And I know that Yardley's recommended it before on the show, but I think us bringing it up a couple of times on the show ain't so bad. It can remind people, or other people maybe have not listed that episode. So Polaroid on Netflix, it's good enough to watch. I mean, it's not like, oh, wow, but it's good. I mean, I thought it was an interesting concept, and it's on Netflix, and it got 5.1 on IMDb. It goes, high school loner Bird Fitcher has no idea what dark secrets are tied to the Polaroid camera she finds. It doesn't take long to discover that those who have their picture taken with it soon die. So that's an interesting concept, and definitely worth a watch. And again, that's on Netflix. Then I checked out Dark Light on Netflix. It got a 4.1 on IMDb, and you know what? I thought it was worth a little more than that. I was kind of surprised. I would have at least put it at a 5 on there. It's watchable too. I mean, I would tie it in with, it's the same quality as Polaroid. A woman returns to her family home and discovers it to be inhabited by monsters. It was a really interesting concept and different. And, of course, her daughter goes missing. And, of course, the police think it's her, because who would really believe that a monster is taking her kid,
Yeah.
Then I accidentally started watching The Wrong Mummy. So I saw it was on TV, and I was like, ooh, The Mummy, I love that show. And it was the crappy one by Tom Cruise. And it's not bad, but damn, it wasn't good either. And I would recommend the Brendan Fraser one before I would watch this one.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just...
Plus the fond memories of what Brandon Fraser used to look like.
Yeah. And it was kind of like... cheesy, and then it had like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde played by what's his face? What's his name? You know, the guy that played the Gladiator, Russell Crowe.
Oh yeah, Russell Crowe.
I mean, and it had Tom Cruise. I was expecting a lot more. I think Tom Cruise is off the shark. I mean, he's fucking crazy, and I get it. But at least he usually makes good movie choices. So I was kind of like, and I had seen this before and had blocked it out of my memory. So again, I reiterate, if you want to watch a good mummy, yes, the first Mummy is cheesy, but it's the right cheesy. This one is not the right cheesy. So,
takes itself too serious, I guess. The original one was so stylized and so beautiful.
Yeah, and this one, it's just really, really dark, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's not, I mean, if it's on TV and there's nothing else, by all means, but I wouldn't go out of my way, definitely, to watch this one. Hate to end it on a bad note, but that's where I'm at with that one. So.
You're like, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the place that Christy mentioned she was in about a week or so ago, where I'm just kind of watching crap because I don't focus on things right now. And it's more, I think, being exhausted 24/7 with these kids that are very needy. So, and also I have to watch kind of shorter things if I'm going to watch during the day when they're awake, because if they walk in on me watching creepy shit, they have nightmares and stuff. So I've been watching a lot of quick YouTube, top 5 scary videos, but I have watched a lot of the really popular ones that are out there. And a lot of our creepers are so dialed in, they might already be watching some of these, but I can definitely recommend which of these YouTube channels of creepy videos are my favorite versus which ones, if you're like me, you could skip. And I've actually had conversations with other creepers and friends of mine who actually feel the same way. So I will tell you, Chills is an online YouTube creepy video site, and it has 5 million subscribers. So what do I know? But to me, his voice is incredibly off-puttingly annoying. And even if you could get past that, his content for instead of having any skepticism or anything in it, he's just and clearly this is a real video because you can see that it is. And I'm just I don't think that's a real reason. I tried watching it on mute, but then it was hard to have him be look in the left-hand corner, stuff you need to look for. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Chills is out for me. There's Ham Slap, I think it's called. There's Sir Spooks is okay. My very favorite, though, is Nuke's Top 5. And the reason for that is the videos are well edited, so you don't have to wait a long time for the payoff. And again, I'm just here looking for I just want to get the shit scared out of me and move on. So it's basically within 30 seconds, something really creepy happens and then they move on. He will try to set aside a little bit of skepticism, but he doesn't try to completely convince you of everything. And so I appreciate that. He has highlighted some other videos through some other channels through his channel. One of them is called Franco TV. That one's for longer videos, but some of the places that Franco has gone, I really want to visit someday. So I do recommend Franco TV on YouTube. Franco seems like a guy who's kind of on the level. Mm-hmm. And then just for other things that I've been watching, this episode was inspired by an episode of Ancient Aliens, season 15, which is available on History Channel. And you have to have live TV, which I don't, but I'm borrowing someone's Hulu, and he's got a trial of live Hulu TV, so you're able to access it. I think it's pretty sad that History Channel, especially right now, isn't allowing more access to them without charging $55 a month, but that's just my commentary. The Ancient Aliens episode in season 15 called Aliens and the President really captured my imagination and was really interesting, whether you believe it or not. It was really fun to watch which presidents have supposedly heard about aliens and which ones were not briefed about it, and kind of starting back from George Washington.
Hey, and then, real quick, I wanted to tell you that you can watch these episodes on history.com if you want to watch them on your laptop. So,
do you have to pay for the episode for season 15? Okay.
Nope. I watched it for free last night on my laptop. So that was, you can.
I wonder if they released it after another week or so, because I think when it was first brand new, it was premium channels only, but I'm not positive.
But yeah, I mean, it's not on apps, because I looked on all the apps. I looked on everything. You had to pay on the movie apps. But if you go to historychannel.com on the internets, you can watch it. So yeah, maybe they just release it after, it's newness has worn off, and you can then
maybe, yeah. But it's kind of interesting to watch because these are so up to date. I mean, they just made that one like in February, so it's kind of nice to get some really contemporary perspective. And I posted this to our Facebook page, but the guy that's in all the memes that says aliens, man, and has like the crazy hair and the necklace. He still looks that way in 2020. So some things you can take comfort in is that has not changed, and he is in the show featured. So, and then the only other thing I want to recommend real quickly that I watched last night, you have to be a Kevin Smith fan, which I've wavered to and fro about over the years. But if you are familiar with Clerks and kind of the Kevin Smith Mallrats canon of movies, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is available for free through Amazon Prime. And it's delightful. Not only is it truly funny and pokes fun of itself, it has every actor that you know and probably have enjoyed throughout many years. You're going to see a lot of people that you haven't seen in a long time, including like the American Pie girl and all these people. They do have appearances by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I mean, everybody is in that movie. Your crush, Christy, oh my God, the guy from Tusk.
Oh,
Justin Long is in it.
Yeah. I like him.
Yeah, Joe Manganiello's in it. So anyway,
even better.
There's a lot of there's a lot of Comic-Con jokes in it. The Comic-Con let them use their logo rights. They have Stan Lee is in it, and it's really touching tribute because they used to have a really great rapport, Stan Lee and Kevin. Anyway, check it out. It's the lighthearted entertainment we all need. I feel like there'll be things you like in there, whether you're a huge Kevin Smith fan or not. So anyway, 40 minutes into our show, and we haven't moved into our main topic, which
that's all right.
Is conspiracy theories throughout history. Guys, every subject you could think of has at least one conspiracy theory attached to it. And what I want to do after this show drops is put a thread up on our Facebook page where you guys can share whatever conspiracy theories you feel like. It was really hard for me as an information professional for the last 15 years to really put in here without, make it lighthearted without being like, oh my God, this is dangerous. I did keep out things that I feel like are modern conspiracy theories that are downright dangerous or hateful. So if you're into like dangerous, hateful, political conspiracy theories, that's not what we're here for today. What inspired this was the Pentagon last week released some new UFO footage. Well, not new UFO footage, but they verified that it was actually UFOs. And there was lots of conspiracy theories. One of our listeners, Ron, actually tweeted something about one of the senators was like, see, this is real. I wonder what they're hiding, what they're trying to keep us from seeing. So that kind of inspired me to be like, what are they trying to keep us from seeing? And so I want to go ahead and let Yardley read the first one about aliens being possibly time-traveling humans.
All right, so we've been chasing ET for millennia with nothing concrete to show for it. Aside from conspiracy theory claims that the U.S. government has an alien spacecraft hidden away somewhere, the search for alien life has been a complete bust. Michael Masters, a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Technological University in Butte, thinks that could be the case because UFOs are piloted by humans from the future, not necessarily by aliens from another planet. So for countless people, the existence of UFOs is undeniable. Many experts, including those who've analyzed recently released footage from the U.S. Navy, are convinced that at least some reports of flying objects of unknown origin throughout history are true. A not insignificant number of reputable scientists believe some UFO sightings could be legitimate mysteries that can't be explained with current terrestrial technology or dismissed as tricks of light, shooting stars, or solar flares. So if they're not from an alien world and they're not explainable by anything on our world, they must be from the future, right? It's actually not quite as far-fetched as it sounds. The gist of the theory is that there appears to be a lot of evidence for UFOs, but absolutely none for aliens. Numerous experts have cited aliens as an explanation for mysteries we have no current empirical explanation for. Proponents of these ideas often claim that aliens visited the Earth long ago in our history, but all they've had to offer is thought experiments. So after reviewing the footage released this week, President Trump says he doesn't necessarily believe in extraterrestrials, which begs the next question.
Are they suppressing alien technology out of greed? Ooh, the COVID-19 outbreak has inadvertently reduced emissions, albeit temporarily, by causing international lockdowns. In the past few weeks, nature has made remarkable recoveries in some corners of the planet. It ponders the question, why can't we start using more greener technology? On the back of this lapse in pollution, the Express and Star asked Mr. Pope for his thoughts about a conspiracy theory which claims greener technology, which could help to tackle climate change, is being hidden away. The conspiracy theory, called free energy suppression, claims that the world leaders are actively concealing advanced technology for monetary purposes. This theory stretches back to the 20th century. Alleged examples of suppressed technology include anti-gravity propulsion, such as reverse engineering extraterrestrial spacecraft, water-powered cars, and perpetual motion machines, which can run forever without an energy source. It claims fossil fuels like petrol, diesel, and coal have been favored because they are highly profitable. If one was to study this theory, an assumption could be made that world leaders have chosen greed over the planet's health for many decades. So it's so crazy because Moni texted me that this was the show she was going to put together, and I was like, wow, we are on like the same brain wavelength.
Our tinfoil hats are connected.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Because I'm actually working on a show similar to what you're talking about. And so my show, and this is what I chose to do before I even read what she was putting together, is a deep dive on this technology. We will be doing an entire show dedicated to the supposed technology that's being hidden that would free us from petrol and oil and everything else. And the whole argument is we are basically global slaves to these higher, big money making, like oil and gas. And that if this technology was made public, we would never be reliant on these things again, and therefore these I don't know what you call deep state or whatever you would call them, but these companies that basically run the world would be obsolete and they would lose their power. So we're going to really get some tinfoil hatties on later again. So that's funny that you have this in here, and yay, it's a great segue for when we do our next show.
Yes, that's what I was hoping. So, and as I mentioned, I watched the recent episode of Ancient Aliens, The Presidents and Aliens from History Channel. And there's a lot of evidence in it to suggest that presidents, including Washington, Lincoln, and Reagan, are officially briefed once they go into the White House on the status of UFOs and extraterrestrials, while those deemed less likely to keep their mouths shut or to use the information responsibly, such as Trump, whether you like him or not, if he knew something, he'd probably say it. So he would probably say what he knew, are never told about it for that reason, is that they would either cause mass panic or give away secrets that are needed for whatever reasons. So what I thought was interesting, too, is looking at coronavirus and all these different kind of things, the ways that history is repeating itself from dating way back all these centuries that humans have existed, of, witches as scapegoats and all the different kinds of things we've talked about on this show in the past. So here are some of the ways that people have tried to explain pandemics throughout history. Throughout millennia, people have fostered some pretty irrational ideas about how infectious diseases such as the plague and cholera were spread. Some of those notions, like the idea that the ancient Siberian plague could be caught simply by staring into the face of someone afflicted, seem laughable. But some of the things you're going to hear about modern ones might seem laughable to some of us. Yet even as waves of disease washed again and again over population centers, it took centuries for science to fully understand the invisible world of microbes. Until that happened, people under pandemic siege tried to explain the overwhelming amount of death they saw in different ways. Some used simple observations, while some turned to fervent beliefs. Others viewed the cataclysm through the lens of their long-held biases, while still others processed the carnage through superstitions and bizarre theories. So here are just a few. Angry gods. When masses of people started inexplicably dying, many early cultures looked first at the vengeful or unforgiving god or gods. In ancient Greek mythology, which often served as an allegory for actual events, Homer wrote in the Iliad of a god Apollo raining plague down on the Greek army, with his arrows during the Trojan War, killing animals first and then soldiers. Apollo's arrows came to symbolize disease and death.
All right, let's talk about astronomical movements and bad air. Throughout the centuries, plague arrived in wave after devastating wave, taking numerous forms, from bubonic, which affects the lymphatic system, to pneumonic, which attacks the lungs, to septicemic, which infiltrates the bloodstream. Perhaps the most virulent occurrence came in the mid-1300s with the Black Death, which felled more than 20 million people across Europe alone. And that's devastating. Amount of people. While it's largely believed that bacteria-carrying fleas were the main culprit, experts at the time found other explanations, especially in astrology and broadly formed ideas of noxious vapors as a breeding ground for pestilence. In 1348, for example, King Philip VI of France asked the greatest medical minds at the University of Paris to report back to him on the causes of the bubonic plague. In a detailed document submitted to the crown, they blamed the configuration of the heavens. Specifically, they wrote that in 1345, at 1 hour after noon on the 20th of March, there was a major conjunction of 3 planets, Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter, in Aquarius. Adding to that, they noted the lunar eclipse occurred around the same time. Citing ancient philosophers such as Albertus Magnus and Aristotle, the Parisian medical scholars went on to connect the dots between planets and pestilence. For Jupiter being wet and hot draws up evil vapors from the Earth, and Mars, because it is immoderately hot and dry, then ignites the vapors, and as a result, there were lightning sparks, noxious vapors, and fires throughout the air.
That makes my brain hurt. Excuse me?
Terrestrial winds that went on spread the noxious airs widely, smiting down the life force of anyone who ingested it into their lungs. A few centuries later, those noxious vapors were given another label, miasma. If it smelled bad, people reasoned it must carry disease, which is not a, that is totally a possibility.
My kids must be plague carriers with all the gas passing. But anyway.
So that explains why during the plague of 1665, some doctors donned beak-shaped masks filled with sweet-smelling flowers to protect themselves from infection. And never mind that playwright and poet William Shakespeare, like other Londoners in the early 1600s, bathed infrequently and lived among rats, filth, fleas, and sewage-filled street gutters. He, too, thought the plague was an atmospheric thing. And taking the heavenly explanation even further, he wrote that malaria, a separate epidemic caused by swamp mosquitoes along the Thames River, was caused by the sun steaming up swamp vapors.
Jesus. I mean, in theory, he's kind of true, even though that's not how it works. But yeah, if the sun heats up the swamp and the swamp, like the mosquitoes are like, woo, like it creates the perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Soup of nasty, yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly the vapors that are causing the sickness. And then they also
Do you see the plague doctor picture that's here?
Yeah.
Have you seen people making masks that look like that?
Yes, I have.
I need one.
Yeah.
It's creepy as shit. I love it.
And we talked about, we did the whole pandemic episode, and they also believed, and I'm sorry if you already said this and I missed it, but that they believed that bathing was bad. It's not that they didn't even bathe, because they didn't, but then they also said when the plague came out that it was bad for the plague. So can you imagine? It made it even worse. So anyway.
And you create more of the bad smells because you're not bathing anymore. So.
And you're just spreading filth. Like, the best fight against a pandemic is to wash yourself. And they're like, oh, it's the worst thing. Well, guess what? Anyway, I digress. Pandemics have long bred prejudice and mistrust and fueled long-standing biases. Oh, shit. Are we seeing that now or what?
Yep.
As traumatized communities have looked to blame others as unclean or malicious spreaders of disease. Throughout medieval Europe, the plague became an excuse to scapegoat and massacre Jewish people. Seeing that now, too, aren't we? Medieval Christian mobs attacked Jewish ghettos with virtually every wave of the disease, claiming that Jewish citizens poisoned wells and conspired with demons to spread the disease. One pogrom, 2,000 Jews were burned alive in the city of Strasbourg on February 14th, 1349. Well, happy Valentine's Day. Meanwhile, the 19th and early 20th centuries, cholera sweeping across Europe became the subject of wild class-based conspiracy theories as poor and marginalized people accused the ruling elite of ruthlessly working to cull their ranks by spreading the disease and deliberately poisoning them. From Russia to Italy to the United Kingdom, scores of riots followed, with members of the police, government, and medical establishments murdered and hospitals and town halls destroyed. In the absence of scientific certainty, pandemics have often inspired people to grasp at answers based on whatever they immediately observe around them. With the Russian flu of 1889, bizarre theories evolved quickly into widely decimated rumors. One newspaper, the New York Herald, speculated that the flu could travel on telegraph wires after a large number of telegraph operators seemed to contact the disease. Others hypothesized that the flu may have arrived on letters from Europe, since mail carriers had begun to fall ill. In Detroit, when bank tellers began to get sick, some jumped to the conclusion that they'd caught it from handling paper money. That's actually kind of a possibility. Other rumored culprits included dust, postage stamps, and library books. Eventually, science began to see the unseen and to explain why people dropped dead by the thousands. Of course, there were some plague-related issues that would always require a higher power. During the Middle Ages, it was believed that sneezing not only spread Black Death, but caused a person to expel their soul. Hence, God bless you. Or in the South, God bless you means, you're stupid.
Bless your heart.
Exactly. God bless you.
I do want to put in there, library books definitely do carry things, but now we're cleaning them. So just saying. So again, I wanted to, in a lighthearted way, but draw, we're giggling about the silly beliefs of times past and pandemics past, but I would argue, just by what you're about to hear, that we haven't gotten much smarter about trying to explain the unseen. So, 5G causes COVID-19 conspiracy theory. Can 5G gear be trusted, and to what extent? For months, answering that question has been the focus of many a nation's rollout of 5G, which should eventually provide much faster wireless data download and upload speeds. As nations pursue the fifth generation of mobile internet services, an unexpected security situation has emerged. Some extremists have been vandalizing or even firebombing transmitter masts, driven by conspiracy theories that suggest not only that 5G poses a public health risk, but that it also helps spread SARS and the virus, the SARS-CoV-2, I think that's how you say it, the virus that causes COVID-19. The idea that 5G lowers your immune system does not stand up to scrutiny. So far, at least 30 cell phone towers in Britain alone have been attacked, including one that provides service to Birmingham, England's Nightingale Hospital, a temporary facility created to help treat COVID-19 patients. Masts in Ireland, the Netherlands, and Cyprus have been targeted with the attacks, which predate COVID-19, but which have intensified in recent weeks. The transmitter masts have been targeted for sabotage, are the ones that emergency services rely on for dispatch and response, especially when anyone suffering the disease needs to get taken by ambulance to the hospital. So you're hearing this, guys, they're actually attacking things that are needed one way or the other. They need to have the ability to talk to one another in times of emergency. 5G poses no risk to public health. No evidence exists that using mobile phones poses a health risk. What is true is that 5G uses higher frequency waves than 3 or 4G to provide faster data transmissions to more users. Because 5G waves don't travel as far in built-up areas, mast towers need relatively more 5G transmitters. But having more transmitters means that 5G can run at lower powers than 4G, which actually decreases the radiation that they emit. So that's actually better for you. Now, in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak, two new types of conspiracy theories have emerged: that 5G can suppress the immune system and make people more susceptible to catching the disease, and that the virus can be transmitted via 5G. Simon Clark, associate professor in cellular microbiology at the University of Reading, tells the BBC that such theories are, quote, complete rubbish and have no basis in biological fact. The energy levels emitted by 5G radio waves are so weak, Clark says, that they have zero impact on immune systems. And there have been lots of studies on this, he says.
I don't know. My phone makes me weak.
That's the one thing is I'm like, some people genuinely might, go dark and not use the internet or their phone if they believe this. But, 98% of the people that believe this are like, but I really like faster speeds. So
of course.
Practice what you preach then.
Yeah, and I like my Candy Crush. So, no, I'm just kidding. I don't play Candy Crush, but just trying to think of a reason why I would what would be the reason why I wouldn't throw my phone away if I did find this out, that this was true.
Watching movies on streaming,
Yeah.
Get your creep on.
All right. Did Bill Gates cause coronavirus?
We're going there, I see. Okay, I'm ready.
The conspiracy theories connecting Gates to coronavirus started in late January with a YouTube personality linked to, it's QAnon, right?
QAnon. Yeah.
Who claimed Gates had prior knowledge of the coronavirus pandemic. Days later, the website InfoWars, the site run by Alex Jones, a conspiracy theorist who claims the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax, published a piece that incorrectly stated the Gates Foundation co-hosted a pandemic exercise in late 2019 that simulated a global coronavirus outbreak. According to factcheck.org's follow-up, there was, in fact, an exercise called Event 201 that took place in October that was hosted by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security, which the Gates Foundation participated in, that focused on emergency preparedness in the event of a very severe pandemic. But it doesn't deal with 2019's novel coronavirus, and it didn't make real-life predictions about death tolls. That distinction, however, was ignored by conspiracy theorists. Those conspiracy theories have spread from fringe right-wing conspiracies sites like Alex Jones to conservative pundits like Fox News host Laura Ingraham. Digitally tracking Americans' every move has been the dream of the globalists for years, Ingraham tweeted back in early April. This health crisis is the perfect vehicle for them to push this. So according to the piece, the inevitable mass vaccination campaign to eradicate COVID-19 would be the perfect opportunity to introduce a worldwide digital ID. This system would store a wealth of information about each individual, including vaccination history, and would be used to grant access to rights and services. It's almost like, first of all, a lot of people on this planet give up all the information on their own because of,
about phone already. Yeah.
About themselves. It's like, hey, if you've got a social security number, a bank account, you know what I mean? Like some of this stuff, it's like you can't escape regardless.
Yeah.
It's almost like putting the culpability on someone else when a lot of times we willingly. And sometimes, some things are mandated, but a lot of stuff that we give up about ourselves is willing. So it's kind of interesting how these things take on a life of themselves. But regardless of the facts that are present, some people are going to kind of double down on, wanting to point the finger somewhere else.
Oh, for sure. Quarantine data, people who, at least in San Diego area, who are reporting, oh, yeah, I've been in quarantine. I haven't been out. Apparently, they're using cell phone data already to find out if that's true or not, and finding out that like 30% of people have actually been quarantined when out of 100% of people who say they have. So they already are tracking us, and you either accept that or you go off the grid. But anyway,
why would you? That's the thing. Like, why? What's the big deal? Like, I don't
understand. What are you doing that you have to be so private about?
Well, but a lot of times, like with apps and a lot of things that people put on their phones, a lot of the default settings are the things that are like tracking your usage and things like that. You have to consciously remember to opt out or to turn that stuff off, because in a lot of instances it's on default and you don't necessarily realize it. So a lot of people, up to a certain point, you got to put the onus on your own security and make sure look into some of those things. People poo-poo changing their passwords. You need to do that stuff regularly. You know what I'm saying? Any app, you have to look at what they're taking. All of them don't give you a notification saying you can turn something off. Some of it are things you have to discover. So if you are really about, trying to, not only for your own peace of mind, but people not getting into your stuff and taking your money, you kind of want to have to keep up with a certain amount of security on your own.
Yeah, and I mean and we've discussed this before, like with the DNA thing, people freaking out. You can't have my DNA, even though it's like solving, cold cases and doing a lot for the good of people. And people freak out about the thought of somebody having your DNA. I mean, unless you're of the weird, InfoWars situation where you think that they're going to clone you or something. I don't know exactly what the fear is of them having your DNA or, we have an Alexis in every single room of our house, which now she's including the one I'm speaking in now. And those things are recording everything you say, and it's solving, murders, because if there's one in your house and somebody dies in there, they can pull up the recording and listen to it. Like, what? I get it. If you're up to no good, then yeah, you got problems. But if you're not, I don't give a fuck what the Alexis is recording and not recording in my house. Like,
and I want to add, we're going to talk more about Bill Gates wanting to put this, wanting to be one of these globalists that puts this information via, an injection into people. It sounds invasive, and it is invasive. And so I'm going to come up with the unpopular opinion, which is my own opinion, which is, quite frankly, kind of leading off what Christy said about you're already being recorded, you're already this and that. If you have some kind of injection in you that has your health history attached to it, and you end up in an emergency room somewhere in the world where you are incapacitated and can't say what your health history is or anything, if you have severe allergic reactions to something, or I don't know, if they're able to actually scan that information and know that about you, they could save your life. And that's, so that's, to me, it's worth it, since there's already so much information about me out there anyway, to be able to have a greater good or know something about me that helps my family. Like, oh, by scanning this information in her blood, we found out she's a donor for, you know what I mean? Like, if you can do those kind of things quickly and accurately, I'm okay with that. So that's just my 2 cents on the thing.
I feel the same
And I also want to say, I read InfoWars for you people.
I'm sorry.
Some of you may not have a problem with that, but I got a lot dumber. And I, like I said, turned down the opportunity to put a lot more conspiracy theories in here that were just full of hate and grossness. But this next one that Christy's going to read does come from InfoWars.
I'm really glad you're letting me read this, because I work in the food industry, and I figured you could speak to it if you wanted to. There is a lot. Yeah, I can actually explain what's going on here, and it's not a conspiracy, and there's a lot that's happening that people don't understand about food distribution that I can kind of hopefully clear up for people. But first, let's read the conspiracy. This one is from InfoWars. Tyson Foods recently warned that the food supply chain is breaking. Lockdowns have created a situation in which farmers have nowhere to send their product, and in turn, millions of animals are being slaughtered. Additionally, vegetables that would normally end up on store shelves are rotting in the field. Despite this reality, Twitter has announced that talk of food shortages will be censored. Lab-grown meat producers are hoping that the COVID outbreak would boost public acceptance. I'm sorry, I will never accept lab-grown meat. I've seen it, and it's disturbing, in my opinion. Anybody who likes it, that's fantastic. Go have your incredible burger at Burger King. It was grown in a petri dish, so y'all, and it has the same ingredients as dog food. So y'all get on that. Y'all enjoy it, and I hope you love it. I personally will not touch it with a 10-foot pole. As Bill Gates was working to establish a worldwide digital ID system prior to the pandemic, he was also working to end meat production and push lab-grown meat. No. In this 2019 report, lab-grown meat was projected to hit store shelves by 2022. Please keep in mind that InfoWars sells their own vitamins and that their products that they say promote healthy lifestyles. So they are also gaining from your belief in certain conspiracies. So really quick, I just want to talk about something about the food supply. And yes, there are vegetables that are turning and rotting, and there is milk that's being dumped. It's not because of the lockdown. What happens is different farmers have different agreements with where their food goes. So Like, I work in dairy and we cover 8 states. So before the pandemic, there are dairy farmers whose milk goes to that big white jug you get at the grocery store. And then there are farmers whose milk goes to the little milk bottles and milk cartons that you sell at the schools. Before the pandemic hit, those big white milk jugs farmers weren't hardly making any money. People are not buying them as much. And the school farmers were living in the dough because that is absolutely been going to get bought. And shipped. Well, you can imagine now the pandemic's here, schools are closing. So people whose meat, whose vegetables, whose milk went to the school processors they're shut down. Nobody's buying it. There was a huge lag for a little while, and then the milk jug was flying off the shelves, and there wasn't enough milk to keep up with production. So what we had to do was take the farmer's milk, and this sounds easy, but it's not, and send it to a new processing plant that then turns their milk into the white jug, which is why now they've taken off the limited, you can only buy 2 milks, in the store. It took us a while to re-channel that food into the correct processor to get sold and shipped to the right people. So yes, for a while you were seeing meat going bad, vegetables going bad, milk getting dumped because their processors weren't getting bought from the schools or from restaurants that closed. It was just going to waste. But we've now rerouted it, and it's been being fixed. So it's not a huge. I mean, people were shockingly very pissed off at dairy farmers because they were dumping their milk. Like, they wanted to fucking dump their milk. Like, are you kidding me? This is not they didn't want to do it. So hopefully that's been fixed. For temporary until things can open back up. But yeah, it was a big deal, and it was a lot of conspiracy around something that was a very simple but very complex problem to fix, and hopefully has been fixed. I can't speak for meat or vegetables, but it has been fixed and rerouted in dairy. So that's what that is. And y'all, I stress that I have been to a lab that grows meat. They actually invited us to it. Just so we could see and understand it. And they were really excited, and they were like, you should market this because it's so amazing. And we were horrified. And we were like, if you're smart, you will never market where this comes from. Just pretend it just appeared magically, because watching meat grow in a petri dish is, nope. I haven't. If you want to go eat your Impossible Burger and you don't want to eat meat, I support you, but just don't think about ever.
I'm okay with plant-based alternatives, but I'm not okay with lab-grown stuff. That's gross.
It's basically put together, and then you look at the ingredients of what's in the meat, and you look at a bag of dog food, and it's the exact same ingredients. So that's fine. Dogs eat. I love my dog, and I'm sure they're eating something wonderful, but I personally am just like, you know what? I think I'll pass. But anyway, that is my own opinion. I like my steak and my burgers, and if you don't, then enjoy it, but I certainly don't want it to take over the meat. That's a problem, and that would piss me off if they tried to replace my steak with one that was grown in a lab. So,
well, yeah, and I want to talk about kind of a common danger that is verified to be true, so that no matter what conspiracy theories you choose to believe or not to believe, there's actually some here that I do actually believe, but I want you to know that your fear helps kind of go towards an enemy that is verified and real. And that is the conspiracy theory that Bill Gates is responsible for the coronavirus pandemic has been pushed on Russian state television, with the European Union warning that some state media outlets in Russia are trying to create confusion with bogus theories about the virus. So again, we have an election coming up this year. Whether you like the current presidency, whether you think that would have happened without an intervention by the Russians, that did happen. The Russians did intervene in the 2016 elections. And all of these conspiracies and all of this dividing of people in their mindsets and fear-mongering is benefiting someone. So the primetime program Man and Law, which is broadcast on Russia's Channel 1 network, ran a 15-minute segment in which Gates was described as a billionaire sponsor of the World Health Organization who sought to reduce the population of the planet. some 51% of Channel One's shares are owned by representatives of the Russian state. The Russian TV show also referred to a TED Talk that Gates gave in 2015 in which he warned about the dangers of a coming pandemic, suggesting that he knew about the coronavirus in advance. But honestly, historically, pandemics happen. It also insinuated that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation would profit from the vaccine. And they might, but that's still who benefits from you being afraid that they are. Analysis by the European Commission shows that Russian media has been peddling a number of conspiracy theories about the coronavirus. When contacted by Newsweek, a European Commission spokesperson pointed to the research it published on April 30th, conducted by its EU versus Disinformation branch, which described how COVID-19 is still the dominating topic in the pro-Kremlin disinformation ecosystem. These included claims that the virus was man-made, a biological weapon, or that it was created in foreign laboratories intentionally.
All right, so let's talk about other conspiracy theories throughout history. The poisonous government snow. This conspiracy theory first became popular in Georgia, where after 2 inches of snow in Atlanta, people started to notice something rather odd about the way the snow reacted to heat. There's a video showing people trying to melt the snow with blowtorches, but it simply wouldn't. Many people started to believe that this was the way the government was spreading chemicals while pretending it was just frozen water. The reasons behind the government might want to poison the entire state of Georgia, of course, were not explained. Many people online jumped to the snow in the government's defense, explaining that the snow turning black itself instead of melting is an entirely natural phenomenon caused by the same chemical element that fills up a lighter, known as butane. But what about the water? Where does it go? Well, the water goes inside the snowball because as the water is melting the snowball is absorbing the water. April is a government blood sacrifice season.
Sorry.
Some people notice that. Some people notice that, oddly enough, a huge amount of tragedies happen during the month of April. According to these people, April is actually the government's blood sacrifice season.
Sorry. That's crazy. You really went deep in the hole there, girl. Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on finding
I
way
almost
out.
didn't come out yesterday.
And during this month, the government performs sacrifices to the demon god Baal, and other later disguises these sacrifices as tragedies. Since many tragedies tend to happen around the same time in mid-April, even CNN has published an article questioning this tragic and unexplainable coincidence. Weirdly enough, mid-April has actually been the period of sacrifice throughout many civilizations, and the cult of Baal used to worship their god of sun and fertility by sacrificing, obviously the alarm going off on my iPhone throughout many civilizations.
Trying to stop this conversation.
It's the government trying to cover.
And the cult of Baal used to worship their god of sun and fertility by sacrificing humans in fire. Conspiracy theorists believe that this horrible tradition is continued by the government in the form of gunfires, explosions, and death.
Wow. Now, I have never, I thought I was conspiracy theory informed, but that one's a first. I have never heard that before. And my interest is piqued. Now I got to go find out what in the fuck are they thinking? Why? Why would they even think that?
I didn't hear about it. I didn't even know that the snow thing was like some type of a conspiracy after us.
Every single thing you can think of has a conspiracy behind it by someone. Everything, there's a topic for every item in your house. It's like the plastic in your water bottle was made to give you cancer and make you dumber. Like everything.
Hey, now I can believe that one.
Rough day researching this.
I know. I reached out to Moni on Twitter. I was like, "No, turn back, save yourself." She was like, "Too late."
Oh, we had a fun day with all these yesterday. I had friends just texting me because I posted on my socials for the Creepers, just so you know, about that I was doing this show and what conspiracies do my friends have. And oh my God, I had people texting me and messaging me just like, oh, well, Chuck E. Cheese pizza is recycled. And,
no, I wouldn't be shocked about
cover
that.
for money laundering. And I'm just like, well, of course, you know.
If you had said Chuck E. Cheese pizza was made from actual cardboard, now that would definitely be a conspiracy I could get behind. Oh, I got a real good one. The invasion of the lizard people. Now, I have heard of this one, so this is hysterical. According to conspiracy theorist David Icke, is that his Ike? Icke? Reptilian humanoids from the Alpha Draconis star system are responsible for a worldwide conspiracy against humanity. According to him, throughout history, the world's most famous dynasties and families are working alongside these shape-shifting reptilians. The list of these accomplices include the Merovingian dynasty,
Sure.
the Rothschilds, the Bush family. Well, of course, the Bushes are involved. Hello, come on now. The British royal family. What's even weirder is the amount of people who believe in this conspiracy theory is not as small as you'd think. Back in 2013, public policy polling in America indicated that 4% of registered voters believed in David Icke's theory. Here's one of the videos where it seems that news reporter is visibly acting like a reptilian. We'll let you be the judge.
Maybe he just had a poop.
Maybe. I haven't seen the video, but I will definitely check it out. Did you know that 7% of the population believes that chocolate milk comes from brown cows? And I'm not kidding you. So if that gives you any kind of understanding of who we're dealing with here, I'm not shocked that 4% of the population believes that there are reptilian shapeshifters in the.
Did you know that 83% of all statistics are completely made up?
Yeah, so 60% of the time, it works 100% of the time. Barack Obama could control the weather. Now, this man is awful powerful. After the tragic events of Hurricane Sandy, some newspapers started spreading the message that this event might have been engineered by none other than Barack Obama. It was believed that the president used the high-frequency active auroral research program to create the hurricane, and some people even spoke about this being a way for the president to be reelected. That would help? Okay. Conspiracy theorists also claim that the government uses the Alaska-based program to change the weather using electromagnetic waves, which basically means that Obama controlled the weather. Wow. I mean, okay.
Of course he did. So that brings us to the end of the conspiracy theories that I was brave enough to pull out of the anus of the internet for you guys yesterday. I literally sent my husband a text if I don't come out, please come and get me, because I was actually pretty interested, but oh man, I came out, I was like, I'm dumber. So what's his face? Oh my God, Bill Gates is a bat from China who brought us coronavirus on purpose because he's a fake bat that they made in a lab there. I just was coming up with the weirdest shit based on what I read yesterday. But before we end, super quick, I want to follow up on something because we said we might do a follow-up on this, and it was a really interesting story. Yes, I thought Christy would like this.
Thank you.
We had talked about, maybe a few months ago, a few episodes back, the Vatican and the disappearance of a girl that she'd never been found. They couldn't find her body. And so I just wanted to give an update, if you guys can remember. The Vatican closes the probe into girl's 1983 disappearance. So this is from the AP out of Rome. The Vatican has formally closed its latest investigation into the 1983 disappearance of an employee's 15-year-old daughter after digging up a Holy See cemetery to search for her remains. So there was a conspiracy theory that she was buried in the cemetery just along with other bodies, but not marked because maybe someone from the Vatican was involved in her disappearance. So the mystery of Emanuela Orlandi's disappearance has horrified and intrigued Italians for decades. The cold case resurfaced last year after an anonymous tip to the missing girl's family suggested that her body might be buried in the Teutonic Cemetery inside the walls of Vatican City. The Vatican had underground burial chambers near the cemetery opened and brought in forensic experts to help investigate. But tests on thousands of bone fragments determined the remains long predated Emanuela's disappearance. the most recent ones having been interred about 100 years ago. So unless you think that there's a conspiracy that they hired someone to say that to the people, who knows? But based on these findings, the Vatican prosecutors asked for the investigation to be reshelved. And on Thursday, the Vatican said that its tribunal judge had accepted this request. So I feel like they've done their due diligence, at least in that matter, to follow up on that tip. And that was actually quite generous. But I still feel bad for this family that they haven't found her kid and they don't know what happened to her. So anyway, that was the update on that really fascinating case.
Thank you for doing that. I completely forgot about it, and I think it has been a while since we talked about it, but that makes me sad because you're right. It's something that these family is probably getting their hopes up that at least they can find out what happened and
bury her properly and that kind of thing. So,
and they're just being mystery solved of at least. So she did disappear, and she did disappear there, and it just sucks that. That wasn't. I mean, I'm glad the Vatican didn't have anything to do with her death, but I definitely would love to have been able to see a close for them. So.
For sure. Yeah. So that's the end of our conspiracy theories. But again, creepers, thanks for coming along for this ride. I will post a thread on our Facebook page once this show drops so that you can add your own and we can have a little fun over there, but be kind to each other. Do not propagate hate or I will remove it myself. But Christy, did you want to talk to us about what the next show is going to be? Or are you not ready for that?
Yeah, no. I mean, I said earlier, I went ahead and committed that, we will do a bit of a deep dive on the technology that the government is possibly hiding from us and has been hiding from us since the 1950s is what they're claiming. So kind of an interesting thing. There's some scientists that are behind this theory and there's a whole documentary about it. And so I'm going to try to download it and send it to you guys so you don't have to pay to watch it. And we can figure this out. If not, I'll just watch it and kind of give you the cliff notes of what they're saying. And we can do a little bit of a talk about this technology that is supposedly being hidden, that is keeping the world slaves on these elite 12 or whatever companies that are supposedly running things. So interesting little conversation to have about that, and it made my brain hurt when I started to read up on it, and I was like, do I really want to commit to this? So I guess after what you've put yourself through, I will also take one for the team and go ahead and get that knocked out. And it's a perfect segue from this one, so it works. I'll make it work.
Well, I had a lot of fun talking to you guys today, and I hope we brought some humor and perspective to some difficult topic and timely topics. But Yardley, go ahead.
Oh no, and we've all learned that it's all everything is all Bill Gates' fault. Everything,
he's a bat,
literally everything on the planet is Bill Gates' fault. That's fantastic. Great scapegoat.
Now we know what we must do.
Yep, now we know.
I don't know. Anyway, Yardley, do you want to give us your socials where we can find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker.
And Miss Christy?
Yes, I am Creepin' at Christy on Instagram. And thank you guys again. Y'all get me, y'all start following me all of a sudden. I'm like, they must have just heard a show, like a big old groupie or like all of a sudden start following. So thank you guys for plugging in. I'm pretty boring on there. I talk a lot about skincare and then of course weird shit and but please stop by and say hello, send me a message, whatever. And then you can also find us on Twitter at creepin_it.
Yes, and I am Moni Bear, MoniBarre across the board. I'm jealous because they're following Christy, but they're like not following me. I mean, just because I talk about my kids, but I talk about creepy shit, I talk about comics, and I talk about beauty stuff too. So follow me if you want. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said get it. And then really quick, I want to explain, we've kind of stepped away from Patreon and we do appreciate all the support, but we just didn't feel right about asking people to join right now because people are struggling out there financially and pushing people to pay for stuff, it just didn't seem right. So we have taken a little bit of a step back by it and not aggressively like follow us and find us on Patreon. That's why we're not giving up on it. We just didn't want to be disrespectful to what's happening right now and figured we would
a lot
wait.
of that content was also based on being able to go places.
Yeah.
And that's not really a thing right now.
Exactly.
I personally am not putting my family at risk by going to places to investigate ghosts and things. But that being said, you can still support us for free by sharing our show, which I've been seeing a lot of lately. So thank you for those who have been doing it. Listenership on podcasts across the board has been down just because people aren't commuting and things like that. So if you would like to tell your friends about us on your personal social medias, that would be fantastic. Also, just real quick to mention, I have launched a new company called Creators Assemble, and that is a not-for-profit pending corporation. So that's another way that if you do have money you want to donate to help other causes, that's another way you can support me and in turn the show. So creatorsassemble.org and also Creators Assemble across the board on social media.
Thanks. Absolutely.
And with that, I'm going to take us out. So I hope you guys have a good drama-free week and take care of yourselves.
All right. Creep it real, y'all.
I don't believe in what you believe.